Pretty awesome to fly in a valley like this.
Yeah. We'll feel it kind of sink into that steady, steep, stable approach and dramatically reduce the amount of energy we have left to flare.
Like most Cessna drivers would be freaking out.
Cool environment for a pattern, isn't it? Looking to get 3 to 5 landings in, get a feel for how it feels out here. Put some of those short approaches and steep stabilized approaches that we practiced in Hood River into use here in the backcountry.
This is part 2 STOL training in the CarbonCub FX3.
I got my tail wheel endorsement shortly after I got my private and just never looked back. Learning how to fly tail wheel airplanes opens up opportunities that a lot of people don't know are even possible. There's so many different levels of training that you can get in tail wheel airplanes to access these amazing parts of the country. It's just a lot of fun, and I think it's a skill set that you can constantly keep working towards past getting your private pilot's license and your tail wheel endorsement. It's like, I want to do basic tail wheel. Okay, I want to learn more advanced techniques to potentially go into the backcountry.
We got some amazing flying done, but due to widespread wildfire smoke, we had to go a long way to find some clear air. I'll show you the route later, but we had a whole bunch of stops planned to land on like mountaintops and other cool remote strips, but in the end, we were lucky to find clear air at our ultimate destination.
Trying to figure out which way the wind's coming from there, but... Whoa, did you see the speed drop right off?
Yeah, a little bit of shear there.
Wow. That was crazy, dude.
So let's hold 60 coming in.
For this initial arrival after the long flight loaded to max gross with all of our camping gear, we didn't worry about flying super slow. We were tired and conditions were challenging.
Fly the speed down to the ground. Don't start pitching up early. Just hold on to it.
Yep.
Good. Nose is nice and straight. Drifting left.
Yeah,
Fix it.
I got it. All right.
Good stuff.
Felt like I was getting my ass kicked.
You were dealing with it. That's okay. We'll unload our gear. We'll go do some playing around tomorrow. We'll play around in this. We'll make this feel good and fun. Sound good?
Yeah, okay.
So after a long day of travel, we set up camp and assessed the situation because we were going to have to change our plans.
So the fire season, it affects general aviation greatly. Lower visibility, people that have health problems from the smoke.
So when you guys are like living in this smoke for months at a time, does that do anything to your lungs or what?
I don't know about my lungs, but I notice kind of my overall temperament.
And then also TFRs. I want to go this direction, but as we saw today, weaving through TFRs and trying to keep out of the firefighters' way so they can safely fight the fire.
So this was a pretty awesome trip. We had about 350 miles to cover. We had 5 airplanes flying together, so we needed a fuel stop. But unfortunately, due to the extremely smoky conditions, we didn't get to do more exploring like we'd hoped. While I was hanging out with these guys while we were camping, we started to talk about the next mission we'll do, because I obviously have to come back here and fly with these guys again. This is really awesome. I think an important point to mention here is that we're training for the backcountry, not necessarily in the backcountry. In order to go land somewhere that no one's landed before, you have to start somewhere, and this is where we're starting.
Alright, so we'll just taxi down there, we'll wait for temperatures and then do a run up.
Yeah, so in the backcountry, we're not going to do the full prop cycling. If you bump it up that much, we're likely to pick up some rocks out of the gravel here, chip the prop.
Right.
We'll try to keep the RPM as low as possible, just enough to get us rolling here, and then to build a teeny bit of momentum from there. Just want to get moving a little bit.
Alright, and then once we get some speed, back it off?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like float flying, I guess. You just want to keep the prop slow as you can.
I couldn't speak to float flying.
Yeah, that's what they say. You got to taxi real slow or else you have the same issue. You pick up water and water is like sandblasting a prop.
Okay. Yeah, float is next on the list for me.
I tried really hard to maintain all the best nuggets from this training, but it's obviously edited for time. There is, however, a raw, uncut version available for Patreon supporters.
Alright, here we go.
I'll make a quick call. Stehegan traffic, Orange Cub taking off 1-3 left traffic, Stehegan.
Does add power slowly so we're getting ahead of the dirt we're picking up?
Yep. Pressure's temperature's looking good.
And you'll notice that we're not doing aggressively short takeoffs. This episode really is just about working on the steep, stable approach, and we're also not going to be doing aggressive braking. And this episode definitely assumes that you've seen part 1, so we're not going to expand on some of the concepts we covered there.
Alright, as we're on our way out here, we can kind of see our abort point. If we do the go around and we're struggling for altitude, it's lower here off to the left a little bit.
Yep.
I asked Brad about some of the challenges he faces doing this job.
I think managing expectations can kind of be the hardest part of being a tailwheel instructor. A lot of people have come in and they've kind of just got the idea that tailwheel is just another type and they're going to come in and rock it, and don't really realize what the lack of stability and the way these handle on the ground means. Stehegan traffic, Orange Cub final, 1-3, Stehegan.
And I'm proud to say that although some of these landings weren't pretty, short of some verbal coaching, Brad never had to take it from me.
Aim point's looking good. Nose just a little straighter to the left.
Oh yeah, it's also worth noting that for the sake of conservative margins, we're aiming to touch down just before the windsock.
Good. Down nice and easy. We'll ease on those brakes.
Nice.
So although that one might have looked long, we were actually right on target.
And just keep it moving the whole time. How'd that feel to you?
Yeah, that felt good.
Good.
Is there anything you want to change?
Oh, I really liked that. We can use a teeny bit more power and get a little bit slower. The big thing is, as you were coming down there, if you had a chance to look out your wing,
Yep.
you can see the angle of attack is pretty low, kind of nice flat with the horizon.
Okay.
If you look at a normal GA approach, usually you'll see that wing kind of pointed down a few degrees negative from the horizon.
Roger. Okay.
That's usually too fast. What we did there had just enough energy for the flare and a little bit of feeling it out, right?
Yep.
A little.
Found the ground nicely on that one too, so that was good.
Yeah, I like that.
I think I got some sleep last night and sunk in where the ground was in this airplane.
Ah, that's right. Sometimes we gotta sleep on it. I'm just gonna pop your vent open so we stay a little cooler
Yeah,
here.
thanks, man.
So to add some context, that's the airstrip. It's definitely longer than we need. The river where we set up camp was walking distance, which is really cool. The windsock is right about there, so what we're doing is basically pretending this is our usable runway.
And I like this, you know, if we're aiming here, our touchdown point should be somewhere in between the sock. I was watching the abort point, looked really good the whole time. I didn't have any indication that wasn't going to go well.
Yeah, I agree, so I felt good about it. Initially I was like, well, this is steep, but I set it up and just got stable and it came down right where we wanted it to.
Yep.
So this time we're going to try to have a little bit more power and have it set up sooner so we get there without having to pull the power as much as we did.
Good. Yeah, I like that.
Okay.
And despite having slept on it, this second one was actually pretty bad. The airplane that I've been flying a lot lately is substantially bigger.
I think you had a little bit of a sight picture to adjust from, and coming from the T6s up a lot higher. So our flare ended up being high a few times. But the biggest thing we were after was the energy management, was flying that attitude that was helping us achieve that steep, stable approach.
Now I see where we should have been fishing.
Yeah, that's right. Some of these draws where it slows down.
Yep. Okay, so full flaps are in. And we're stable for speed. Power's a little bit high.
I think you could pretty comfortably start your base there.
So I was thinking too. It's good.
If we end up low, we'll just add power
500.
and re-intercept that steep glide we want instead of accepting too low a glide. So
Okay.
here we're ending up a little low, just add a little power in, hold your altitude for a bit.
And then
Stehegan traffic, Orange Cub final, 1-3 Stehegan.
power off now.
Yep. And settle in for that, you can bring it out a good amount. We're at 1800. So just come back to idle from here. Let it start to settle into that steep approach.
So this one isn't stable due to having failed to do what I planned and briefed, which was to use a consistent power setting of about 1300 RPM.
There it is, feel it start to come down on you.
Yep. So add a teeny bit of power. And then get ready to blip it.
Nope, I would just use what you got for the flare here.
Oh, we dropped it on pretty good. Yeah, but I blipped it. It was too much. Yeah, so that's that case where a tiny blip was way too much, eh?
Yeah. A little bit of an arrival there, right?
Yep.
But the blip kind of got us flying again.
Totally.
A little more than we thought it would.
No more than I thought it would. I think you knew that was going to happen.
I did expect to have a teeny bit more energy though. So we were each right in our own regards there.
It's cool though. It's a good lesson. It's funny, the first one was pretty good. Let's try to not screw up the third one.
Oh, that's all right.
At least we put it where we wanted it.
Yes. The big takeaway here would be using that power to adjust that glide path. So initially there we ended up a little bit low. Just used the power to kind of level out, re-intercept that glide we did want, and then pulled the power out and settled into that nice steep, stable approach.
So I got into this approach with the power too low at the end. Is that what happened?
Yeah, if we would have had a teeny bit more airflow, I think the wing didn't run out of energy. I think the tail ran out of authority.
Yeah.
We were able to fly this steep backcountry approach, have just enough energy to flare, started getting a feel for when to time the blips of power. A few were more of an arrival than others, and a few were really excellent. So I was happy with where we were able to get. Airspace is clear. Stehegan traffic, Orange Cub, taking off 13 left traffic, Stehegan. I'm ready. Good. I was feeling like I wanted just a bit of right aileron in, you put it right in.
Okay, cool.
Same page.
And we're not using slips today. If we can't get it down in a steep, stable, coordinated approach, we'll go around.
With full flaps and idle power, the slip just makes it really drop like a rock.
Yeah.
We don't have any elevator effectiveness issues. It's not going to try to tuck on you if we're slipping with full flaps. Very stable in the slip. You'll run out of rudder first. You can control heading with the aileron. So if you need a full slip, full rudder first, no problem. It's not going to overpower your ailerons.
So that's good to know, but I'm not planning on using a slip today at all.
So we're going to try to be more like 45 this time?
Yeah. And that'll take just a bit of power on the descent. So once that descent starts to come in, we can eke it out a little more, get a little slower, and add in a little bit of power.
Yeah, so I'm getting a little further ways because I got too close there, I think.
Okay. I think you can control this with a nice steep approach from here.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, so I'll get back on final now.
Good. Stehegan traffic, Orange Cub, final 13 Stehegan. Power back just a sec. Let it kind of settle in. Felt like a bit of lift there too.
Did.
Nose up just a tad higher. Right there, let that start to come down.
The goal is to get super slow and have the power at about 1300 RPM for elevator authority, but I've got about 900 here.
And you think we'll be able to plant this one with this much power?
With a little bit of power at the bottom.
Yeah, so I was running at an elevator. Anyway, we planted it.
Yep, we arrived.
We arrived.
Keep her straight.
I feel good about that. We went past our aim point slightly, but it was pretty short still for the roll.
Yeah, I was watching it. Looked good. I think if you really do keep an eye on whether or not you're drifting and keep an eye on keeping the nose straight, you can be pretty comfortable instructing in tail wheel. As I wouldn't say they scare me often. Sometimes it's a bit more of a surprise when I think, oh boy, this is going to diverge this much, and I'll start taking over at this point. I start taking over at that point and then realize, wow, I really couldn't not have let it got much further than that. That can be a little scary to think retroactively.
It's great to see like being able to be on board enough to like see what didn't work and then fix it.
Yeah.
Just when you first start out, so much is happening at once. It's hard to like pick up everything.
Have you ever flown approaches like this?
I did it once, like literally a year ago.
Okay.
So we did similar training in the FX, but it was a year ago. It was the first time I'd ever done it, and it was very hard to get past how uncomfortable I felt flying that slow.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool to revisit it, but it's a year. I mean, you know, currency is a thing, right?
Sure.
Or
Yeah.
recency, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. There's a difference between currency and proficiency too. I think of currency as kind of a legal requirement.
Yep.
Versus proficiency is are we good at what we're going out to do?
So what do you recommend people do in terms of frequency to practice before they try something like this?
I'd recommend going out to the local field that you're comfortable with, preferably something grass or gravel. Gravel's only concerns are picking up chips in the tail if you're quick on the power or chips in the prop.
Yep.
But both have kind of nice, similar surface qualities, a little reduced friction, and coming out and practicing. I don't think there's much of a replacement for getting some instruction on something until you're at the point where you're safe to go out and practice it, but then you can do some dedicated practice and go out and get 15 or 20 landings doing exactly this style approach at your home field, and then feel really comfortable when you need to come out and use it and rely on it, especially for the shorter strips.
Right. Because if I didn't know there was room to screw up here, it'd be hard to feel comfortable, right?
Yeah.
But knowing, okay, so we're going to try to, and sometimes on final, it seems like it seems impossible to touch down before that wins or gets stopped right there, you know?
Uh-huh.
But we were doing it. But just knowing the rollout space is there to be conservative in practice, that's what makes this feel good.
Sure.
Okay, so there's one notch. And we're gonna keep the fuel pump off?
Yeah.
Props full fine, mixture's set. I'm good, you're good. You wanna do the radio call?
Yep. Stehegan traffic, Orange Cub taking off 13 left traffic, Stehegan. I like your smooth, slow power application, just avoiding those rocks.
Yep. We're a little bit higher, so I'll give us a little bit more time on final.
Okay.
I'll try to get stabilized, keep it at 45 with about 1300 RPM. Is that what you figure for authority?
And and right at the bottom is when we're most concerned about that RPM. If it's idle, we're just gonna get really nothing.
So we'll just give it a bump it, but not blip it.
Yep.
Okay.
And it depends what we're doing with the power on final to help make the approach the angle we want. Stehegan traffic, Orange Cub, turn to final 13 Stehegan.
Yeah, so we're low now, eh?
Yep, just a bit.
Not too bad though. Yeah, see that? All of a sudden now we're not low.
Yep, bring the power back a little.
13.
Power back more.
Yep, so we're going for 13. 100 RPM, 45.
The objective is to get onto the backside of the induced drag curve. Part 1 covered this in great detail, so I'm not going to review it here. Regardless, I didn't quite pull it off this time.
Interesting, I didn't ever get the sync to kick in.
There, it's coming.
Yeah, we're long. Do you want to go around?
Let's abort. Go around.
The flying skills are definitely, I think, a bit of a unique set, and I think they transfer very well to helping us be a more precise pilot. But I'd say managing expectations is probably the hardest part.
Nice.
Guess I could have been faster on the power application, eh? I was just trying to make sure I kept it under control, didn't get some big torque effect.
Hey, control's good. You've been flying T6s.
Part of that's kind of a managing an ego thing, just in terms of, oh man, he just told me to go around. I haven't done that since I was training for my private or something. So I think that can be a little bit of a challenge.
Good. Train clearance is all good. Stehegan traffic, Orange Cub on the go, left traffic 13, Stehegan. Good. So on that one, maybe a little too much focus on holding the 1300 RPM and the speed.
Right.
Use the RPM to adjust the glide path. So if you're high, pull it back further. Kind of hold your attitude, let it start to sink. Then if we end up low, we can add the power back in and kind of arrest that descent. What we want at the bottom is a little RPM to help it with the flare. So we can kind of think of that as we're kind of hitting ground effect, maybe just a little spurt to help get that airflow to get the nose up a little further.
Okay.
But we might be locked in a little too much to flying a power and an airspeed.
Roger.
Versus feeling that descent rate and just making the glide path what you'd like it. Now looking at this descent, that's looking pretty appropriate, so I'd start turning in.
Yep, here we come. Just don't want to make it steep, right?
Right. Stehegan traffic, Orange Cub, final 13 Stehegan. So now back in the power, let it continue coming down.
Yeah, there's the sink. You can feel it like an elevator.
Yep.
The flying went well. I think we accomplished the goal we set out to do, which was to introduce you to steep, stable approach, shorter style of landing that isn't flat, drug in,
Little spurt.
or reliant on the brakes.
Yeah, that felt good. I mean, it was an arrival, but it was what it meant to do, right?
Yep.
I did not want to over blip it.
That was perfect, I thought.
Yeah, that's a good one to end on, man.
Happy with that?
Happy with that.
All right.
All right, so we'll just bring it over to the lineup and load up.
Yeah.
Sweet, man. All right, thanks a lot, man.
Oh, absolutely.
That was great. Felt like some good progress there.
We weren't done flying together yet though. Beyond getting home, we had one more leg to fly together.
Thanks a lot, that was awesome.
You bet. That was fun for me too. Now it's off to Vans.
Yeah,
Excellent.
Yeah.
From this trip, I was heading straight to the Vans aircraft factory, which is also nearby. Brad was nice enough to give me a ride in the FX3, and it was pretty surreal to be landing on the same runway that I'd be flying 5 Vans aircraft from in the coming days. So this is some really exciting content that's currently in post-production, and I definitely need to thank Patreon supporters and sponsors for helping create this content. And in this case, huge thanks to TacAero and CubCrafters for going above and beyond to make this one possible. And until next time, keep your flight chops sharp.
A pleasure flying with you. I had a really good time. And I hope this kind of taste into the backcountry lifestyle was enjoyed by you as much as it was by me.
Sure, yeah, for sure. Yeah,
Nice flying with you, Steve.
It's a lot of fun. The possibilities are endless of what you can do in a tailwheel airplane.
That was awesome. That's why we don't breathe.
That's why we don't breathe.
Right.